Trenches Podcast.
But today we want to talk about, the difference between working for your money, having your money work for you, why it's important, and everything in between that. Right? That's what I'm right?
Read in between the lines. Everything in between that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And the reason why I bring that up is because I was, funny enough, man, I was talking about being a grown man. I was on TikTok. I saw this dude. He was like, I don't think I sent it to you. But basically, this dude was talking about his friend. He was talking to his friend who's like, "Oh my God, I finally made $100,000. I'm so excited." But he did it through a W-2. We can also touch on that too, right? W-2 versus.
Is that the guy? Is he like a Is he a darker skin guy?
He's a what?
I don't want to.
He's got longer hair.
It's always tough for me to like. I don't really know how to like. But
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
a darker, right?
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
even know.
He's like. Damn it, bro.
Wow.
We gotta edit that part out. I know, right?
Oh,
No,
it's fucked up because I didn't even say anything bad. I just don't know how to word it.
No, he's like he's got like longer hair. If I had to guess, he's somewhere Middle Eastern.
It might be the same guy, or it's just, or it's someone doing one of them are copying off the other or whatever. Because I've seen,
It's the same guy though. It's the same guy, and he just goes yeah.
He goes back and forth,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
And
I've
he's
seen, yeah.
okay. So hopefully I can find that. Put a little screenshot of that dude. But yeah. Anyways, he was talking about he made 100,000. He was so excited, and the guy was like, "Oh, listen, that's cool, man." And then he's like, "Well, how much did what did you have to do for it?" And he talks about, well, obviously I had to go to work, and it was obviously you can only do so much in a minute TikTok. But the premise of the whole thing was really deep, and that's why I want to talk about this because, and obviously you can touch on it too. But working for your money versus having your money work for you is one of those things that you hear all the time, but you never really I never really understood it until obviously you study a little bit more. And there's actually a huge difference between having to get up every morning, clock in, and it's like how much of your time did it take you to make that? And I think that's one of the more important things because you always talk about that too, about you're buying time.
Yeah.
Right.
100%. Yeah, I mean, we only have so much time, and you're supposed to get 8 hours a night of sleep. If anyone's getting that, so it's like what time that you're actually awake and time that you can actually use and utilize is so small and limited. So like buying the time that you have available is so important and key. And so yeah, man, clocking in for somebody else and all that kind of stuff, and it is it's tough for me now because my mindset is completely changed. It's been like this for a while, but specifically very, very hard in the last 2 to 2.5 years where I can't even wrap my head around it anymore of, we've talked about before, like collecting a check, going to work for somebody else, clocking in. Like I would legit have anxiety having to go back to work, even if it was for like a day or two, knowing that like I'm clocking in on someone else's time.
Right.
And like, they're going to tell me when I get to go home, or they're going to tell me when I get to go on lunch, or they're going to tell me, whatever. So that stresses me out. So it's hard for me to, and I'm still trying to be like a good friend to people and a good, a lot of my friends have 9-to-5s and corporate jobs and stuff like that are getting promoted and are having good experiences at work. And so I'm trying to be there for them and congratulate them when they get those promotions and all that kind of stuff, but also trying to sneak my little things in there as well to show them the other way, just because it's tough, man. Because and it's not made for everybody, I guess. So it's hard for me to completely convince everybody.
Yeah. You know what's crazy about that too is that when I was working, it was like my first job. This guy, I remember it was like three of us, right? We were at a pizza place. And I was telling this dude, like the owner, I was like, "Hey man, like bro," he's like, "I want to." It was crazy. I'm like, "Bro, I want another quarter." I was like probably 18.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Bro, come on, man. Like, give me 25 cents, bro. Like, stop being a cheap fuck."
Yep.
And then he was like, and I kept telling him about it, like in text messages. I would always say that too, like, "Come on, bro. Let me get like." Stop being like that. It's a quarter, bro. What are we talking about? In my mind, I'm like, bro, that's a lot of. But I'm like, I made $10. I'll make $10.25. So every 4 hours, I'll make an extra $1, right?
Yep.
And he was so cool, man. He was just like, Chewy, come here. Let's go. Let's sit down. And I'm like, oh hell yeah, bro! I'm about to get this extra quarter.
I'm about to get that
bro.
quarter.
I'm about to get maybe 50
This is that
cents, bro.
talk.
And he sat me down. He's like, Chewy. He's like, you know, you're a hard worker, bro. You're here all the time. You're fucking all, you know, you're funny and shit. I'm like, appreciate you, bro. You know, but I'm like, but what's up with this money? And he's like, dude, let me tell you something. He's like, if I give you a quarter, how much is that gonna change, like, of your life? He sat there and broke down the math for me. And he's like, even if I give you 50 cents, he's like, is that gonna make you happy? Because the other dudes, I give them 50 cents and they, you know, want to do backflips. And I'm like, well, yeah, I'm getting paid the less. I feel like I'm doing the most. And he's like, true, even if I give you $1 raise, he's like, you work 30 hours, it's only $30. What the fuck are you gonna do with those $30? He literally said that to me, like that, but like in a good way, like in a like not in a condescending way. It was like a way like you need to think bigger than asking me for a quarter.
Correct.
And ever since that, bro, that just changed my mind. I always had that thing in the back of my head, and
Yeah,
you know,
those times are good, man. Because
Yeah,
it makes
dude.
you makes you go back and think about it. I had people sometimes ask me like, oh, how did you even get into real estate, or how did you even? And I used to not know, and I don't remember if we talked about this the first time, but I used to go to these real estate events and seminars when I was like 17, 18 years old. I used to have my mom drive me. I didn't have a car at first, so she used to drive me. And this was probably like 45 minutes away, like so far away. Traffic, the whole deal. She used to drive me there, and she would just sit in the parking lot while I went inside. And these two guys who were probably, if I was to think about it, they were probably in their mid-20s, maybe late 20s, maybe at that time, and they were hosting these little seminars in this room, and it was teaching all about real estate, different things, wholesaling and whatever. And I remember at one point, like, it was kind of cheesy, but he was talking about, he had this card, and I don't know if he was talking about a credit card or what he was talking about, but he's like, real estate is crazy in a way where he's like, he goes, I drive past dealerships all the time when I'm driving here, like luxury dealerships. And he's like, and I think about it where I can buy any single car in that lot that I want with this card right here. And he's like, and I don't, because I invest in real, like, he was kind of flexing at that time. But I used to go there every day, or every weekend, I think it was, a couple times a week. He used to have my poor mom drive me out there. And I was working at UPS at the time, as at 3 a.m. to 8 a.m. I was working an overnight shift while going to school, and it was horrible. And I ended up getting promoted from my regular job to supervisor, so get paid more, but way more responsibility, and But I was excited about it, and so I remember going in there. I remember going into see the real estate guys like that weekend. And they had seen me in there all the time, so we became cool. And they were like, what's up, man? How have you been? We haven't seen you in a few days. What's going on in your life? Whatever. And I was like, oh, I just got promoted at work, man. I'm a supervisor now at UPS. And I'm all excited. Bro, I got the vibe going. I'm excited. And they just kind of half-ass looked at me, and they're like, that's good, man. And they're like, you know what that is, though? They're like, that's just them putting the handcuffs on you a little bit tighter now that they got you a supervisor. And they're like, every time that you get promoted, every time they give you a little bit more money, a little bit more responsibilities, like those handcuffs get a little tighter, and it's going to be harder and harder for you to walk away from that job, and it's going to be harder and harder for you to like commit yourself to real estate or like any other thing that you want to do outside of that. And at that point, like, I remember being mad at those guys for
saying
days, because I didn't understand what that meant. I was so excited, and like I said, I was vibing when I walked in there. I was happy, I was getting an extra couple bucks an hour. I was in charge of some people, all that kind of stuff. And so I was mad. I didn't get it until years later. Yeah. And I was like, damn, those guys, they were trying to tell me something that I wasn't in the capacity to understand at that point. It didn't click till way years later, until like literally 2 years later, maybe, or 2 years ago, 3 years ago even, where I was like, that story clicked in my brain. I was like, that's what they were talking about.